It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. I'm a subscriber to a YouTube channel that's called The Line, and for those who have no idea about this channel, it's a debate channel about theological issues such as the existence of God and the importance of religion, and I highly recommend you guys to check out that particular channel. Now, more recently, the channel has been talking about social issues such as transgender issues, as well as feminism. And more recently, I spotted a video where there was actually a debate about the issue about patriarchy and whether or not patriarchy actually exists. Now, one thing that my fellow atheists actually pride themselves on is the fact that they're critical thinkers, that they're free thinkers, and that they want to actually believe as many true things as possible. And I totally agree with that settlement myself because I want to believe in as many true things as possible too. But when it comes down to the issue about patriarchy, I feel as though that the belief in the patriarchy in the West is completely unjustified. And hopefully for this video, I'll demonstrate why exactly I feel this way.
Patriarchy, by definition, is a society that puts the emphasis and the control and the power of men, and women are secondary to that. So it's like where the majority of leaders should be men, the majority of those controlling the way the system works, the government, all of that should be men.
As you guys heard, the definition of patriarchy as defined by this creator is defined as a society that puts an emphasis on men and men leadership, and women are at the bottom in comparison to men. Now, this definition does not make any sort of sense whatsoever, largely because there are equal opportunity for women to work at any type of job that woman wants to. So a person who's a woman can work in governmental jobs if that person chooses to. That person can work in businesses if that person chooses to, or any type of career path, just like with a man, for the exact same pay. Because since 1964, women gotten the same pay just like men in terms of their earnings. And so there's nothing out there in the United States that actually makes sure to put women down in comparison to men by that particular definition. Additionally, there are many laws that have favoritism towards women in comparison to men. For example, females spend less time in prison in comparison to a man in terms of direct sentencing for the exact same crime. In terms of the issue about the draft, men are required to register for the draft in comparison to a female. Also, there is something that is known as the Duluth model, which automatically assumes that the man is automatically assumed guilty for sexual assault in comparison to the woman, even if a woman were to directly sexually assault a man. For the whole entire issue about the case of circumcision, it's entirely okay to cut out the tip of the penis of a little baby, but when it comes down to the clit of a little girl, that's not necessarily okay whatsoever. There seem to be double standards and also a lot of lays that tend to favor women at the expense of men. Additionally, what is so incredibly wrong about the fact that there are some men that are in leadership roles in comparison to women, because there is something that is known as diversity of thought, is the notion that although you might share the exact same genitalia as somebody else, that person will have different viewpoints in comparison to the other person and vice versa. And so even though there might be like a lot of men that might be in government, not every single thing that they talk about is actually in direct agreement with other men because they think differently and have different political ideologies too. And so there's diversity of thought in that particular governmental setting right there. It's not necessarily because we have the same genitalia, therefore everybody else must agree. But let's listen to the other examples that we see that they claim that there's evidence for patriarchy for.
I want to ask, do you guys think like the United States is like a patriarchy.
Yes, it is.
That I don't understand that, and I'm open to hearing why you guys think that, and then
Well,
maybe I
we
could
can
rebuttal to some
see,
of it.
yeah, we can see like some more concrete examples of that in the way that women are treated in workplaces. Like we are given different standards and are often paid less than our male counterparts doing an equivalent job.
When it comes down to the issue of the wage gap, it's actually better to refer to it as the earnings gap. And the main reason why women on average tend to earn less in comparison to men is largely because women are less likely to negotiate their salaries in comparison to men. When it comes down to the issue about the hours, they tend to work less hours in comparison to men. When it comes down to the career paths, men are more interested in government. They're basically more interested in the STEM field and also sewage as well as construction in comparison to women. And those particular areas, they actually pay more in comparison to things like being a teacher or being like a doctor or a nurse. And so, because of the less likeliness of negotiation skills, the likeliness of them actually working less hours, less likely they, of course, be like a full time worker, that's the main reason why they tend to earn less in comparison to a man.
Zach, I have a question for you. Do you know what
Hear it.
year women do you know what year women got the ability in the United States to get a credit card?
I'm gonna take a guess. I think I kind of know the
Okay.
decade because I think
Okay.
I want to sound like an idiot, but
No,
the
it's fine.
credit card
It's
came out before the internet, right?
it's a
Yeah.
long before. So when did women get
Okay,
the
so
ability? And why
1980s?
and what
No,
So
wait,
1970
90s.
no. Credit lines have been available long before that. But here's the main thing about that question. Why is there a difference between when women were able to get credit cards and when men were? The year was 1974. But why is there a different year for when men had lines of credit and when women had lines of credit?
I find it so incredibly curious that she mentioned the fact that women were not allowed to get a credit card until the 1970s. Now, it is awful that prior to the 1970s that they did not receive any type of credit card whatsoever. But it really makes you think, in what patriarchal society is it actually okay to allow women to get their own purchases by their own free choice? If we truly, honestly wanted to put women down, we would not necessarily pass that law in the first place. That will mean that in a true patriarchal society, by our own definition, where basically men control everything and women are second class citizens, why in the world will we pass a law to make sure that women have equal treatment like men on the issue of buying their own personal property with credit cards?
We can see it also in our healthcare system. We know obviously a lot of the stuff that's gone on, especially with reproductive rights in the past year or two, have been extremely alarming.
This type of issue begs the question: Roe versus Wade was passed in the 1970s. It has been over 50 years. 50 years for the Democrats to make sure it was actually federal law to make sure to protect the notion of abortion for women across all states. But for the last 50 years, they did not do a thing to actually make sure that it was actually protected by law. Now, that's their own doing. That was their own fault. And so it kind of shows you the notion that politicians are not necessarily in the best interest of the people. Now, there are still some states that do allow abortion, but the ones that don't allow it are mostly the red states. And I do find it to be a very sad issue. But once again, it's been over 50 years, and the Democrats did not do anything.
Like, when's the last time men had to get together and fight for their rights as men? it doesn't, that's not happening.
There are plenty and plenty of videos on YouTube where men rights activists do in fact go out and protest for the rights of men. However, there is a caveat. Whenever they protest and bring awareness to the fact that men also face like a lot of issues in society, they're almost always protests by feminists. So basically, a lot of the issues that men's rights activists bring up are shut down thanks to feminists protesting them. But anyway, I'm not necessarily convinced of the idea of patriarchy as defined in this video. And hopefully this video will get like a counter argumentation against the notion of it.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.